Peace, family. Total Flash 2.0 here, back again. Like always, even though we're going through issues, there are always going to be nice days. And I do the best I can, as you know, to always cherish every day the best I can, even though, like everyone else, I may be bombarded with certain responsibilities, which is okay, because that's actually a level of balance. But today is like mostly going to be a day for an adventure today, because I really haven't took the time to be able to have more of an adventure, to be able to venture out into more areas of nature, and I want to be more versatile and not really do the same thing over and over again. But I realize that's a gradual process. But this video that I want to present to you is a video that I always wanted to do. This is actually a continuation to the original originators of our Genesis, and that this is one that is maybe the last one, but this is a really important one, and it's really in depth based upon what I've learned through meditation and what the Creator has been speaking to me over time. And I want to talk about the power of Partheneogenesis, okay, and also the structures that of society that we should be aware of that can split both genders apart in respect to suppressing a certain aspect, whether it's the feminine aspect or the masculine aspect, to create separation in our society. And throughout the story of this planet, Terrestrially, that's what I call it. Throughout Terrestrially, there has been a separation between the genders, and to where a certain gender has a hierarchy compared to the other, and that there has been a deep suppression. In most cases, it has created war. And so I want to go and touch on that. But first, I want to talk about the power of Partheneogenesis. And in my first video I did, which was the prelude to the originators of our Genesis video, I spoke about the power, but I wasn't really specific on the whole entire aspect of what the Creator has provided me over time about what the woman truly goes through in the essence of being asexual, or how asexual beings procreate, and the significance of it. And so first I want to break down the word Partheneogenesis. And as you know, that Dr. Blair spoke about the Parthenon. If you follow his work, he talked about the Parthenon that existed in ancient Greece, and that the ability for a woman to give birth on her own was something that was very sacred. It represented a certain level of balance, and a certain way for her to. It gave her versatility. It created stability in society, and I'll explain that as I go forward. But first, I want to break down the word Partheneogenesis. Notice you have part, okay? Then you have the, then neo, then Genesis. Now we talk about part of what? Okay? Then you see the neo. The Neo. You see? Neo going back to the Matrix, the movie. Alright? The one. Think about the product of a woman giving birth to a child, the star child. And I came to realize that, notice that in the movie The Matrix, that Neo, he was rare, he was unique, he was chosen, he was the one to end all suffering in Zion, right? And that the truth, it shows right there that through Partheneogenesis, the God energy was able to be born from the womb directly. It is said that in the Bible that Jesus or Yahweh or whatever name you want to call him, I believe he has infinite names because he is unique, because there may not be a title to his name. He may not have a name, but his name may be kept secret and it may not be truly known, is because he was the God in the flesh that walked on earth. And that if that's the case, and if his mother gave birth on her own and brought in the God energy, then that meant that he was an incarnate of a higher being that represented the highest state of divinity, to give a message to the world, to end all suffering, to guide man to become more divine, you see, and give us testament and so forth. And so that's basically what that part is showing, that the reason why the feminine essence has been suppressed in that part is because an androgyny for that part as well is that they didn't want to let you know that through a woman giving birth on her own, that meant that it wasn't, the creation wasn't altered. It was based on her mind and what she desired solely and from nature. And I'll speak later on that momentarily. But notice you find Genesis. Genesis is the beginning, the gene, which is the source. And then you also have Sis. Notice Isis or Aset. Isis or Aset was the mother of Heru, and also the queen of Osiris or Asar. And that the story goes through the fact that she got impregnated on her own through the masculine energy of a spirit, which is of Asar. And so, and this is what I want to get at when it comes down to the full details and what I was able to dissect in my mind about this. But I want to first talk about the time when there was just women on the planet. And so, with the woman being on the planet, and with her being and it being many groups of women on the planet, okay, at a certain period of time, they had a highly connection with nature. They had a very high connection to nature. And I came to realize that many aspects of nature created our body. We can adapt to many forms of temperature, water, fire, that involve the elements, which is water, fire, earth, and air, right? And I came to realize that these forms are energy. So in order for the woman to go through certain experiences, she had to tap into certain levels of energy first in order to be able to procreate. And notice that the mind, when I talk about the mind, with her using her mind, that's the air. She's working with the air energy, the mind. But what is the source of that? It is nature, right? From Mother Nature. But yet, what's beyond Mother Nature? You have the Father, which is the Son, right? Why is that in ancient Kemet there was a lot of homage given toward the Son, which represent Ra, which was the Father? You see? And so I came to realize that the woman had to move into a level of state of connecting to a certain energy or energies and tap into the mind in order to activate the mitochondria within her in order for her to give birth, and also in most cases use her imagination based on what she desired to give birth to. And the key thing I just said, what she desired to give birth to. Notice that Dr. Blair spoke about the fact that the face of the woman on Mars, in comparison to a goddess that existed in ancient times, represented that and signified and symbolized that all races came from her, came from the woman. And usually this is not anything that has to do with racism or anything like that, but it depicted a woman that was highly melanated with dreadlocks, and that with that she would come to life. And that you notice that, which made me think that in this universe that there is an origin. The reason why we have so many differences because there is many different sources, many different aspects of the feminine energy that can create different races in all parts of the cosmos. And so with that, I came to realize that in order for man to have to even exist as a different race, and that's deep. That's deep. As a different race compared to the woman, but yet compatible. He may not be able to propagate, but like I said, there had to have been a certain energy she had to tap into for the male to exist. And notice that I said in other videos that the man existed in higher dimensions, while the woman existed in this dimension, in the third dimension. There was no way for a man to be able to exist without her being in existence first in the third dimension. But beyond the third dimension, man and woman did not become first to the other or precede the other, you see? And so, which refutes the idea that man is greater than woman or woman is greater than man, you see? And so I want to really make that announcement. It's just that when people talk about that the woman is God, they're referring to the fact that she was able to give life in this existence, in all existence. But it had to happen from the source, from the lowest levels, which is this third dimension, to above. And that things happen on a gradual process, you see. Whenever we are ready to evolve into the fifth dimension with this planet, we can end the separation between woman and man by just evolving based on love with ourselves and then for us to resonate with the fifth, be able for us to be compatible, to be able to evolve into the fifth dimension. You see, that is why there are certain planets that are on a certain vibrational rate. It is said that Sirius is on the Sirius star constellation is on a fifth dimensional vibrational rate compared to Andromeda. Andromeda is on a up to a ninth dimensional vibrational rate, which could give you a clue about the origins of the cosmos and how things work based on the source, based on what I'm talking about. And so that's really what I wanted to convey. And when you talk about energy, in the process of her becoming, when we talk about all the spiritual practices and things we're actually learning right now about meditation and things of that nature, they refer to energy as being chi. And with the air element, right, notice that Aquarius is an air sign, and both air and water is a form of clarity. So she had to gain a certain level of clarity in the moment as far as meditation, and it connects to nature within herself to become balanced in order to give birth to a child a baby on her own. And so that's the thing. And I want to be able to talk about this. What actually moves me into the area of speaking of the separation that is caused by matriarchy and patriarchy, and that, but there's an origin to all this, and all these things are only created. These man-made concepts are only created. They're only created based upon another person's fear way back then of something. Patriarchy can only exist because of the knowledge and the knowing that, wait, if I can't propagate myself, or I can't propagate myself as a man or whatever, that means that I won't be able, the race of man will not exist. So therefore I must suppress the opposite gender. Vice versa with matriarchy. Matriarchy probably had existed only because there was a lot of pride that woman may have had in her androgynous state, to say I have all this power and that to procreate and you don't, but I can use your energy to actually to suppress, use your energy to keep my feminine energy up, to suppress a man to do whatever I tell him to do, so that he can reap the benefits of my femininity. You see, and in most cases, I'm not saying that matriarchy is bad, solely bad, and I'm not saying that patriarchy is bad, but it's a way you have to go about it. There's a certain way you have to go about having a patriarchal society or a matriarchal society. The moment when you start suppressing the opposite gender in that society, the moment when war starts to happen, the more, when a certain level of an aspect of our existence is not balanced enough, that's when there is a level of war that can occur. You see? So, and I want to go, I don't really believe in what this information I got before. And the reason why is because I don't think, first of all, I don't want to just go by what other people say. I have to go by my intuition. I have to go by certain things that the universal prime creator shows me. But usually, most definitely, there was an androgynous race of women that was on this planet for a long time. And that, yes, they took pride. Yes, they took pride in giving birth. And that the thing about it is that they could only give birth. They were only aware of the nature of woman. that meant that their mind was only stuck on femininity, which meant that they will always give birth to women, you see. And that basically means that actually means that over time, yes, more and more women will be able to exist on the planet without men even existing, because it would all be just feminine, you see. But when we talk about androgyny, the woman had an aspect of being being in her masculine self and her feminine self. And so the information I got was that when woman was introduced to man, what happened was when she actually later on, when she wasn't able to be androgynous no longer, to be able to be asexual, or this, and the thing about it, this may have happened in a gradual process. I'm not saying that this happened instantly when man interacted with her, but in most cases is that, based on what was said, was that when she was introduced to man, what happened was that she kind of used man to sexually, so that she can give birth when she didn't have the ability to give birth on her own. And with that said, afterwards they did the way she got what she wanted from the man and did away with them. And that I'm not sure if this is the truth. And the idea of it is kind of it hurts in a certain level of way, but then I understand the reason why the early androgynous woman may have did that, because she knew the power of the God energy, that the true, like I said earlier, that when she gave birth asexually on her own, that the God energy came out of her directly from the stars. It wasn't like when she was producing. It's not like nowadays when there's reproduction with another being or another person of some sort. It's not like there's two people. There's two minds interfacing during the act of sexuality, but which can somewhat throw off what you actually want to produce. You see what I'm saying? And it's focused on, for example, if you had an intercourse with someone that was impure, not pure at all, and you were pure, and you desire for your offspring to be pure, your offspring may not be as pure as you want it to be. You see what I'm saying? In mind, body, and spirit, but you may be pure in mind, body, and spirit. You see what I'm saying? And that's the type of mindset that the androgynous women had. They were so close to nature, they were so pure, that they felt like that they didn't want anything else to intervene with their impurity. And I see that. And they understood that there may have been a divine masculinity, or they may have already knew there was a divine masculinity that existed in the cosmos that was trying to bring itself in, find its way to exist in physical reality so that it can experience. You see? And so the reason why I don't believe in what was said all the way is because I feel as if that, why would you want to do away with a man when you may give birth to a male and you may feel bad about it, about what you did? And that is why I feel like there has been an agenda to separate men and women on the planet, to actually have men go against men when men are not rising to their kingship. And like I said earlier before, it took an androgynous woman back then when there was no men at all, when the men was done away with, that may have not been seen to show any level of divine masculinity, to show man how to live in his heart, to show man how to live in his mind as well, have his heart, guide his mind, and they may have been aware that when man be in his mind so much, he may tend to cause an unnecessary war. So it may be many different reasons why early androgynous women did not desire to be one with man, but it may have been about, based on what I just said, it may have been about the type of man that they wanted to be with or grow with. And that's why, in most cases, the reason why they don't talk about the feminine essence or give much homage to the feminine essence the way it should, and I give a lot of homage, as you know, on this channel, to the feminine essence. It's just that I don't want to neglect the masculine principle, but I want to talk about that later. But you came to realize that Sashet, which is the goddess, one of the goddesses of ancient Kemet, she gave knowledge to man with the apple, like I said in my prior videos. And that, with that said, is that I want to convey something, is that meaning that the woman had to be the source of all symbolism and all levels of spiritual interaction, with her having a close connection to nature as an androgynous being. And that she tapped into the masculine self, she tapped into the feminine self wholeheartedly, and she became balanced all the way through. And this energy was necessary in order for a being like a god on earth, or Sebekis, or Superman to exist. And that's the main reason why so many things are happening upon us, genetically or DNA wise, based upon some of the foods that we are eating that we can't help but not to eat, because basically it's being tampered with, and it can become addicting psychologically and sometimes emotionally. But that's a different topic. But the only way for this God energy to come back is for us to connect to nature, and to actually ask for women to be more healthier. But the only way for women to get back to her androgynous capabilities is for the divine masculinity in men, believe it or not, for divine masculinity in men to return, for us to be the teacher and to provide wisdom. And with me, I'm actually activating my divine masculinity, and like I've always have all this time, and to provide wisdom. But I know that there's more levels of divine masculinity than providing wisdom. There's a level of willpower that has to be activated, and there has to be a representation. There has to be everything. It has to be a use of the mind in certain ways. And I noticed that there was a time when I noticed that and to all the males that may be watching this video, I don't want you to ever feel like that I'm neglecting the masculine principle. Oh no, I'm not neglecting the masculine principle. It's just that we have a certain purpose, and the universe is trying to teach us through the karma of the woman losing her androgynous capabilities, is for her to learn how to be cohesive with man, for her to learn how to appreciate her gifts, and to not rid away the man all the way. And that's the thing. And I remember that the Creator woke me up. The Creator kind of did slap me in the face one day, or a couple of times actually, when I actually had times I put too much thought into the feminine essence, but I didn't move more into the masculine principle the way I should have. And actually that kind of made me a little imbalanced. I was too much in my feelings so much to where I didn't actually balance these feelings, because usually these feelings and emotions has to do with the feminine essence when it comes down to tendencies and acting on emotions so much. But with the man creates the masculine energy. It creates order with those emotions, and be like, wait, hold on. There are certain emotions that are maybe putting me in a state where I may be susceptible for an attack. You see, and that's why I've learned throughout this journey and throughout my absence is that I can't just be I can't give too much credit to the feminine essence or too much credit to the masculine essence. It has to be credit throughout. And that's what I've learned throughout my absence, is that you have to be careful when you be vulnerable sometimes, because there's consequences to always being vulnerable. There's consequences to always being passive. And instead of checking certain issues that come your way and just letting them come through, and not expecting yourself to get hurt by it. And so yeah. And I know that's something that certain women have an issue with, because I came to realize that there's certain tricks that patriarchy can put upon women to make them be addicted to a certain thing. For example, with the story of Pan, or even trying to actually infuse this idea that women have to always give up her sexuality to a man all the time, but not actually being conscious of what type of energy this masculine individual or whoever may have, or what his agenda may be. The story of Pan is a story or a mythological story that actually could teach us a lesson, both men and women, and that it can teach women to actually cherish her power, the power she has as a woman, and to know what she wants, and to not all easily give up know what she desires out of a man, and actually see it for herself, and actually purify herself enough and expect something pure out of a man to have a sexual interaction with. But it teaches men also one thing, is that we can't always live in our lower self, in our lower chakra, based on survival, and back once again based on the survival program about I gotta always seek out things, and we have to move into thriving. We gotta actually move into the mind and find much more many ways to attract certain energies in order to satisfy us in a more safer way. And with the story of Pan used the magic of melody to attract the woman to have intercourse with, or attract the water nymphs to have, or even goddesses of that matter, to attract a sexual intercourse. You see, and to also, it's also the act of persuasion. Notice that in some music, right? There's music that make women so aroused to where they want to be on this sexual streak and try to just have sex with any man. You see what I'm saying? It's all, you see the aspects of Pan in music all the time with this low vibrational music. With some of it, you know. And so I came to realize that Greek mythology there's a person behind Greek mythology in a certain way, even though it's based on allegory and all those things, but it can teach us a lesson. You see, it can teach us a lesson about what not to do and what is better to do. And in most cases, with it being mythological, it could actually show us that there may have been certain events that may have occurred in the past that can teach us how to evolve into a higher state of consciousness, to realize that we must live in balance. That we must try to live in balance, be in balance all the way. And so I came to realize that there was a time when I neglected both parts. And now I realized, once I came to realize that I had to become one with this, with the feminine energy and the masculine energy all the way, and acknowledge both, I came to actually give up the idea of being thinking about certain areas of sexuality. But I'm not saying that you have to suppress your sexuality. I realized that there has to be a balance. There has to be a balance within self, and realizing that there's many forms of connection we must make in our lives in order to and actually appreciate certain levels of life force or energy that we have to evolve. And there's things that we can't put everything we have on the line that's from within us, so that there could be another being that could just take advantage of what we originally have. You see? So, but I had received a message from the Creator when I was in my meditation based on these topics about androgyny, and that realized that we're moving towards a time where the feminine essence is rising, divine femininity is rising, and that there is something to be aware of with this rise. And that with divine femininity, it has to be aware. We can't move it with women. It doesn't really matter based upon what women desire to do with this energy. I mean, all the way right now, I'm letting you know right now, the woman is free. She is free. The man, we have a lot of karma upon us based upon this patriarchy. But at the same time, when it comes down to those that are of divine masculinity, that represent truth, that do care about the feminine essence, we will reap more benefits, all because of the fact that we do seek the feminine essence of high regard in our heart, in our mind, in our spirit, in our soul. We don't desire to suppress it. But one thing I want to make sure, based upon, I want to let you know, based on the Creator, is that, and what I was told, was that what the Creator desires is for the woman to activate her androgynous capabilities again, but also use this androgynous power, this androgynous ability to help balance the man, you see, and to where he's not being too sexual. He's rising from his animalistic ways. You see what I'm saying? And that when you go back into the cosmon, it spoke about that the true mark of the beast, the origin of the mark of the beast, was animal man, right? Animal man, chaotic, right? And usually it goes back to the 4Fs once again. And I constantly talk about the 4Fs. And that if man is not guided properly, and is not challenged enough within himself, then he's going to easily succumb to the 4Fs of existence. And he's going to try to use these 4Fs in the act of persuasion to make a woman act low vibrational, to where she supports his agenda of some sort. And then it starts becoming highly sophisticated with his mind. And that's when you talk about the true nature of the devil with overthinking and so forth. And it starts turning into certain sage ideas that are unnecessary. And that's really why I wanted to convey from the Creator, and what the Creator told me, that to not use even though I may be by myself, and there may be women that may not be rising to their there may be certain women that may be not rising to their higher states of consciousness to be more into their true feminine essence. It doesn't mean I have to go toward the dark side of the force, because I'm not, because there's no true representation of divine femininity around me. I mean, I don't got to do that. All I got to do is actually go within myself and realize what I desire within myself, and I desire to be a true king. I desire to be the type of king like Osiris or Ra, right? Or more like Yahshua or Jesus, or the infinite name of him. You see, be the walking representation of that. And that's greater when you have a woman beside you to do that for you. That shows right then and there that if you don't need a woman to do that for you, to actually show you how to be a man, or to be a divine man or moving divine masculinity, that shows right then and there that you actually are moving toward your divine masculinity and moving away from the aspect of the 4 F's and actually creating a kingdom, a righteous kingdom, and living in the area where you represent order, but that order is established not just by the heart and not just by the mind, but both. And that in most cases is an acknowledgement to the woman, you see. And keep in mind that a king could have not become a king unless he was chosen by the queens to be a king. A pharaoh couldn't have not become a pharaoh, okay, without being chosen by a group of women in the first place. And that's for a whole nother video. But you see what I'm saying? But first, before that time, you had to see yourself as a king first. You see? And that's how we give acknowledgement to the androgynous energy, or the androgynous form. Is that it's a way for us to be able to, usually with the androgynous energy and with Partheneogenesis wholeheartedly, it would actually literally change the world for the better. Like, you never know, within like a day or like just within the year, when a woman would be able to actually bring in, you wouldn't have, with Partheneogenesis, the special thing about Partheneogenesis is that you wouldn't have to, our ancestors wouldn't have to, you wouldn't have to like, you have to probably know astrology or of some sorts, but you wouldn't have to go in depth. All a woman had to do was be in alignment with the universe and the cosmos and with a certain star, or the alignment of the planets is at the same time, in order to bring in a certain divine soul from the higher realms into her womb. You see? And that's the secret. And that's where I know for a fact, that's where the infinite man of Jesus or Yahshua came from, which we do not know the true name of. You see? And that's why they said that Ra was, her Heru was frankly the incarnate of Ra. You see? And notice that you don't see God from the sun. God can only be seen in our existence based on what people do. You see? And so I know there's a lot of quality in my videos and a lot of things that I share, and some videos can be so long because there's so much information. Again, when you're on a level of evolution, a level of just seeking answers, and for the most part, when you're by yourself and you don't have no one to even share it with, you cannot help but share it with other people. And this is a lot of information, and I just hope that this video was a way to empower women overall, but also men as well, and to realize our purpose, and that the true desire for our planet and for actually human race overall, and even for the cosmos, because I realized that in the cosmos there is separation between men and women too. There's all male races in the cosmos, and there's all female races. But we can end that when we realize the actual divine purpose of our responsibility and our responsibility toward being masculine and being feminine, and how to make it whole. Because usually when we make it whole, that's actually how we can bring back the twin flame relationship, and which could change the entire fabric of the cosmos all the way. So yeah, I thank you for watching, and I just want to say to always stay in balance, and that when it comes down to, in reference to balance, I realize that in order for us to let go of certain things that do not serve us based upon our actions, like the things we do, solely on that, is that we must realize what our consequences are, solely, and the dangers of those consequences, the specific dangers. And in order for us to move in our divine masculinity and divine femininity, is that we have to appreciate what we have originally, that was given to us, and what we must honor. And that we cannot let anything or any type of group of people dictate, or evil, because it doesn't show itself, dictate and actually conspire to have us potentially do harm upon ourselves and unto others, for us to lose an aspect that was so special, you see. And believe it or not, the Andromedans, they lost their androgynous capabilities. And you ask for what reason? It may have been karmic debt. I don't know, and I don't want to come up with anything for that reason, because that's not my place for that. But I realize the only way for it to come back to them is for most definitely for a union to happen, for something to be unified, and that I feel like it starts with us. And you never know how that energy can transfer back. And so yeah, I love you, and I thank you, and yes, just take one day at a time, and don't give in to anything, to energy that does not serve you, for you to end up losing what you originally have. And realize that when it comes down to being, I guess, being a sexual being, is that realize that I don't have to connect to another person for sexuality. I can actually connect to nature for a mental and spiritual cleansing. I cannot just drink water. I have to be intimate when I drink water. I have to think about everything in existence, or the connection to the sun, whether it's the moon, the stars, or what have you, or the nature, to butterflies. A butterfly just flew through. Use that as a way of a connection sexually. And it doesn't have to be physical. You see? And so that's the magic. That's how we can able to be actually think in an asexual manner. But it doesn't have to be, I'm not saying that you have to suppress your sexuality. It's just that this is something that we actually had before. There were beings, there were actually beings that came to this planet that were actually Hermaphrodite, actually, that did not have a sexual organ. They didn't have a phallus. You see, they didn't have a phallus. They only stimulated themselves based upon what they interacted with, and what usually when it came down to physical sexuality, they actually had to put themselves. They used their mind so much to where they actually used it to where it almost was physical, almost to where it was self-stimulation. It was imagination, and And that's one of the reasons why in our society is that they don't want us to use our imagination so much to create things. They want us to be so logical so much. But we can use both perimeters of our brain, the logical part of ourselves and the imaginative part of ourselves, which is on the right side of our brain, to actually stimulate ourselves to not even seek out anything. You see? And so that's the secret. And that's the reason why all these agendas exist. And so I hope that this information was able to free you in many ways. And that when it comes down to evolving, this is how we can evolve to actually become better beings, better human beings, and serve as a representation of unity in many ways. So once again, I love you, and I appreciate just your level of being able to receive the information, the consciousness that you have created for yourself, and I see you as motivation for me to continue moving forward with what I'm speaking about. So yes, once again, as always, Total Flash 2.0 here, back in. And remember, when it comes down to, I guess, abiding by androgyny in certain ways within you, remember to always live within the caduceus. Peace.